Welcome to Insights Fusion podcast, where we talk to accomplished people and try to steal great ideas and apply it into our own businesses and lives. My name is Vygandas Pliasas. I'm your host. I have 18 years of experience in software and product building and working as fractional CTO and management consultant. And this podcast is all about figuring out management secrets, what industry leaders are doing, how they innovate, and all the things that you can take and do yourself to improve all the things you do, like businesses and entrepreneurship journeys and whatnot. Today on Insights Fusion, we are diving into power of storytelling, branding, and breaking through barriers. My guest is Liana Zavo, PR executive, Forbes thought leader, and the founder of Zavo Media PR Group. She's built a global PR firm from the ground up, helping founders, executives, and organizations establish credibility and visibility in competitive markets. But beyond PR, she's a relentless advocate for women in business, mentoring thousands, and pushing for real change in leadership and entrepreneurship. Liana, welcome to Insights Fusion. Let's talk about how you started and where your journey begins. What do you do?
Oh, thank you so much for having me. This is amazing. This is exciting. So the question is where I started my journey.
Yeah,
You know what? It's I wrote a book about it, so I can definitely guide your audience to reading more about it on my book is Be Epic. So it all started of how to be epic, right? It all started how to get yourself out there, how to find the courage to speak up. And I've always wanted to speak up. I always wanted to tell my story. And so I'm a second generation journalist. My grandmother was a journalist in Russia, and I followed in her footsteps. I was just so inspired by her story that she always was telling me about how storytelling is such an important aspect of everything in your day-to-day life and how you connect with others. And so how you can make an impact is through being impactful with your storytelling. And it all started with her, right? How she ingrained that in me as a little girl, and how I just always wanted to pass this on, right? My knowledge, my wealth of knowledge. And so I went to college for some time, and then I dropped out. I went for speech pathology, wasn't really my thing. And I always wanted to pursue storytelling and PR communications, but I was swayed. I was swayed because for a number of reasons. My mother didn't want me to pursue something her mother did because she was never there in her life as much as she wanted her. She was always traveling because PR and journalism is very time consuming, and you always need to meet people. You need to always be among people, right? Because that is what communication is, right? You have to communicate your storyline. So it all started when I started believing in myself that I can do it, even if I don't have the college degree. And I'm very open about it. It's all over Google if you Google my name that I am a college dropout. But I had to work harder. I had to work so much harder because I had to hire mentors along the way in order to get me to where I am today, right? If you're a college graduate, it makes life a little easier because you go to school, you invested time. But when you're not, you need to really double down with all the knowledge and all the resources and tools outside in order to propel you forward. So I had to learn right away how to make strong connections, right? Fostering relationships with people and to get me to where I need to go. The one upside I would say of not going to college is finding ways. I was hungry to succeed, even though I come from a really great background. Like my family, we're in hospitality industry, so I could have kind of piggybacked off my family's restaurant business, but I decided to leave a trace and a mark on my own. I wanted to just make a difference in this world, and I said, you know what, I'm going to do something, and I need to follow my dreams and my passion. So it was very difficult, but here I am speaking with you about my story. So I guess I did something right.
definitely, definitely. Interesting. So I think you dropped from the college because you already knew what you want and it didn't really match what you started, right? I guess for, if you're already in the college and university, it doesn't mean you have to go out of it and change something. But if you're really strong about it and not on the same path, then it makes sense, like in your case, I guess. Right? Do you think it would have changed anything if you didn't go out of it?
Didn't go out of where what
Yeah,
else
yeah, where you were studying, like you didn't dropped out. Do you think it would have had anything at all, or?
If I didn't drop out, if I pursued speech pathology, I would have been miserable, because a lot of my friends that I went to school with, they don't even do that. They don't even practice that field, right? They have no interest in practicing speech pathology. Not it's a bad
Mhm.
thing. It's just because it's a tedious job. It's not for everyone, right? For me, I love instant gratification. I love to, I feel that going to college for something that you don't have interest is a waste of time. I have an 18-year-old son, and I tell him the same thing. Go to college for something that's going to be of use, right? So even if I went for a business, I think that in itself would have been much more, I think, more knowledgeable for me than speech pathology.
True, true. All right. So PR, is it PR for businesses or is it PR for persons?
So it is for businesses, organizations, founders. But what I like to do is I represent the face behind the brand, which is the personal branding that I excel in. So personal professional branding. So I have a founder that I represent, and then I hone in on his story and what makes him exceptional, what makes him stand out, so that I can intrigue the audience with his story, and then we sell his story to the audience, right? That's what PR is. It's not
Mhm.
advertising. I'm not telling you, hey, buy my product because it's great. I tell you why you should buy my product. I go into my story and why my services matter and why I should be considered the top number one authority in my industry. So that's what I create out of founders. I create authority builders.
Interesting. So if I have a company and I'm the founder or like a CEO of the company, I could come to you and then you would fix it. So what does it include, like in simple terms, because all of it sounds fancy and sounds smart, but for a person who doesn't really do much with a PR, it's a bit a gray zone.
Absolutely. It's so interesting. When I got into this field, I would think more founders would know what PR is, but they actually don't. They know what marketing is, they know what advertising is, but PR is like that underdog, right? It's a promotional tool that's really underrated. And so in simple terms, right, it's basically I am unveiling that story within you. It's unleashing the story within you so that I can take that story and connect you with the audience on an emotional level.
Mhm.
Marketing does not do the why, it does the how, right? That's what marketing does. It's how. But what about the why? Why should I buy from you? So people connect with other people on an emotional level. If they
Mhm.
want to be connected with you, they will be emotionally invested in you. And in order to be emotionally invested in you, you don't need to do marketing, because they know, first of all, they know for marketing, you can pay and get the marketing tools. You
Mhm.
can pay
Mhm.
and get the advertising. You can also pay for PR. But the tricky thing about PR is this: you cannot go say, hypothetically speaking, I want to get your story into Forbes. I want to get you, so you're in Europe, right? And so what
Yes.
I do as a publicist, I bridge the gap for founders to be featured in the American market. So I'm in 12 countries. And
Mhm.
so a founder comes to me and says, look, Liana, I want to be in the American market. Nobody knows about me. I want to find ways to get my story out there. The best way to do it is tell his story in Forbes, for example. So I feature your story in Forbes, I interview you, and then people read about you. And then they say, oh, wow, there is a businessman in Lithuania, and he wants to, he has a demographic in America. So I bridge the gap for founders internationally, globally, in the American market. That's the first thing. Marketing cannot do that, and advertising cannot do that. I mean, in a very authentic way, right? So,
Mhm.
in order for people to trust you, in order for people to say, I want to work with him and I want to give him business, is when they can read your story and they connect with you. I also do press releases, which means that if you have something to announce, right, you come to me and say, look, Liana, can you please do a company announcement and find a way to announce something that's really going to create a buzz. So creating buzz authentically to connect with your audience on an emotional level, that's what PR does, right? And it's the why should we work with your company?
Interesting. So it could be one time like release to Forbes, let's say. It could be like a strategy for ongoing, like let's say going Forbes, doing all the other PRs to create the buzz, and you can iterate like every new feature, new release, something changes.
Authentic connection, right? Making you into a thought leader as well. So another thing I do is get people featured on different stages, right? So TEDx is one of them, because once you already have honed in into your messaging, then you want the world to see you. So I get you into different stages, right? Seminars, conferences. And in order for you to connect with your public on a very emotional level, you need to start speaking. So that's another
Sure.
aspect of PR. PR does events. We do events. There's speaking opportunities. There's write-up opportunities. But not every write-up will give you credibility. So I have a lot of my clients saying, you know what, I've been featured in this magazine, but I said, you know what, I look at the magazine, I'm like, well, this magazine it won't do much. It doesn't have a high authority. Nobody knows this magazine. And by the time you get to that point, it's going to take so many years. You want to get into a publication that's well known, reputable, right? Has reputation, and that it will give you credibility. That's the whole point. We want to tell your story in a third party, which is a magazine, which is a third party, validates your story. But if you're going to be in a very tiny little magazine nobody knows about, that's not really PR. PR is getting the buzz out in a very strong form.
Interesting. And also it's a better ROI, as I understand, because if you go strong, it's much faster, you get the results immediately, more or less. And if you like save a lot and do tiny releases,
Absolutely.
it will
I
take
always say, look,
forever.
if you do PR first, because PR is, you're spending X amount of dollars and you will get your ROI. Because it's guaranteed. It's not like marketing, you're dumping money into marketing or advertising, you don't even know what the ROI is. But you know that once I get you featured in top tier publication and I get you featured on TV, right, that in itself is organic growth. You're always going to be trending on Google, so it's already, SEO is already embedded. You're always going to be trending, right? So if there's a TV segment, it's not going anywhere. It's only going to grow with time because more clicks and more visibility on you.
Interesting. So I think sometimes people might even mix PR with PR, like press release and
But
public
press release is
relations.
part of the PR aspect.
Yes,
It's
yes.
like the first component. Hey, I want to announce my company. I just launched a startup, and then we announce the company, and then we go from there. We have to build on that. We have to build on your storyline.
All right. So I wonder what's the client profile, because it all sounds quite expensive. I even had like one client, let's say, coming into United Kingdom's market. And if I recall well, it was about 10 million budget for the PRs. I mean, like billboards, underground train station banners, like all sorts of things, like ads, everything. It's like massive number. Is it for like well established organizations to push with the PR, or it's accessible to, let's say, founders who need a little bit save more?
It's definitely for founders. I work with small to mid-sized businesses. I work with founders who just started. It is an investment, but it's an investment that you see an ROI, right? So
Hmm.
it's going to propel you much faster in what you want to accomplish, as opposed to doing it and trying to see what works. So if you're asking me if small companies can afford, it's an investment. It's not about the
Hmm.
affordability. It's like, how much do you want to invest in yourself? Because you're going to invest the same amount in either marketing or advertising. Why not go with PR, which is going to give you much more credibility, right away.
Hmm.
And then you can use marketing to say, look, I've been featured, I've spoken, I have a TV segment, I've done this as a thought leader, my business has been featured there. And then you hire a marketing team so that they can take that information and then kind of repurpose it, right? That's what marketing does. They repurpose it on all different social media platforms. But where it comes from, which is the source, which is PR, that is the source, right? That is, so everyone, every founder needs it. Every nonprofit I work with has to have it, because that is where you gain trust with your audience. How do they know to trust you versus someone else? How do you stand out from the crowded
True.
marketplace? In order for you to stand out from the crowded marketplace, people don't believe in advertisement. I don't care if you're in the back of the bus or on a billboard, they know you paid for this. But they know you cannot pay to get into a top tier publication. Now, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of publications that ask you for money to get featured. I would not be featured there. I would not want to, because that is not how PR works. You cannot
Hmm.
go to a publication and pay them directly. You have to go through a publicist where we make sure the angle will create buzz for your personal brand, where we know that that will create more of a strong personal brand for you. So if you're going directly and paying for an article, that is a big red flag. You don't do that. You have to hire a publicist. We have the Rolodex of journalists. We will get you into the right places, and I will position you as a thought leader and authority in your industry.
Very interesting. I guess it starts to change my understanding of the PR, how it all works. Um, all right. So, but I think you need a big team. It's like a lot of things you're doing. Are you a no? Is it a big team?
So I have 20 people working for me in
20
New
people.
York. I have freelancers, part timers, full timers. I have, and globally, I'm in 12 countries. So I have like five freelancers in each country that help me strategically get these
Hmm.
to get strategically with these other clients, and foster these relationships, because I can be in Dubai,
Oh,
right? So I
definitely.
have my freelancers who work there for me, and we partner strategically. It's so important to partner with strategic partnerships, and in order to propel you forward, right? You can't do everything on your own.
No, yes, of course, of course. Uh, what are those countries?
They're
12
on my
countries is a lot.
website. There are 12 of them, and I can't believe but just Dubai is one of them. I just came back from Dubai. I was there with my son. I went there for a business trip, and I celebrated my birthday. That was amazing. I work with investors there, so real estate investors and developers. And so I've never seen them. I've worked with them just like this,
Hmm.
through Zoom. But it was time for me to meet them in person, and I went and saw them in person, which is amazing. And so, it basically, it's important to have these connections in all different countries that I go to. Another place is Switzerland. I was in Switzerland for the first time. Actually, it was the second time last year. One of my clients, flew me out. Then I'm in Israel. I am in Japan, coming to Japan, actually, not there yet. Italy, France, and there's other countries that we're in, but those are like the main hubs that we work with.
Nice, nice. Very interesting. All right. So, what were the biggest challenges to get this whole thing fly?
I mean, look, the challenges are every day, right? It's delegating work. Delegation is key. I wore so many hats when I just started my business almost 8 years ago. And, what really will help me to overcome these challenges is making sure I hire the right team. And a lot of them are smarter than me, right? They know more than me. And that's the best thing, right? I can't teach everyone how to go about PR. They need to know what PR is. And the other thing is, overcoming challenges is to connect yourself with others strategically. As I mentioned before, strategic partners are so important. And so if you want to get somewhere faster, make sure that you elevate yourself with the right strategic partners. So like, for example, I can, say, look, I think there's something here and we can strategically partner up. You're in Lithuania, correct? And
Hmm.
if you, for example, know someone in Lithuania who needs PR, then you become my strategic partner, and we work together to foster this relationship. And you get a great incentive from this. You get
Hmm.
an amazing incentive because you send me clients, and vice versa. If there is a need for you, we become that strategic partner. And that's what I foster.
Okay, makes sense. Makes sense. All right. So let's talk about mentorship. I've read that you mentored over 2,500 professionals.
Yes, indeed, I did. So it
All
all
right.
started. Yeah. How
Oh,
did I go about doing that?
what was that about? Yes.
Okay, so when I wrote my book in 2020, I've always found that it was hard for founders to speak up and to have a voice. Now, in 2017, I started representing my restaurant in New York City. My family owned the restaurant, and I did all the PR. So the mentorship started in that restaurant, where I was interviewing them on my podcast, and they in turn wanted to find ways how they can become better in storytelling. That is what I mentor them in, how to tell their story authentically in order to propel their business forward. Because if I Google you and there is no story about you and you don't know how to bring those pieces together, then you
Mm.
don't have a very successful business. Because I want to read headlines, I want to see spotlights about you, and I want to see who's talking about you. So that is what I was mentoring them on: how to be seen, how to be heard, how to get out of the comfort zone, how to have that belief in you, because it all stems from that belief, the belief that you can do it, the belief that you can actually tell your story, and how to have the courage to step out of your comfort zone. So I teach this one word. It's a so I teach this methodology, right? It's 5 steps,
Mm-hmm.
and it stems from that one word: be epic. So it's a five word, I would say 5 strategies to my methodology. Stems from belief, empowerment, personal development, your inner voice, which comes and tells you how to create, right? Your inner voice is what actually creates your reality. And your which is the last one to see, is a courage to step out. So I was teaching this them and mentoring them on this be epic, right? A one word acronym, and how to get them out of their own way, because so many founders are sabotaging themselves, of saying, I can't do it. I can't really tell my story. Maybe my story is not good enough. I don't think that I have a strong story. So I come in and I mentor them and I say, look, you have a strong story, and let's find ways to really amplify it, and how to get you seen and get you heard.
True. Well, that sounds scary. I think to many because like you know, how do you know when it's good enough?
Well, when we start working, I'll tell you when it's good enough. There's obviously strategies there, right? You have to implement strategies. And for those listeners that are listening to this right now, they can go on Amazon. I also have launched my PR and branding. It's a guide and journal. So basically, anyone who is willing and wants to start their personal brand and is a founder, and even if you're working 9 to 5 and you want to start your personal brand, you should get that journal on Amazon, right? It's called the Personal Brand Guide and Journal. And you will see the strategies that are implemented there, right? There are steps to take, and you will follow your unique selling proposition, what exactly you need to do. The messaging has to be there, right? And also, I have a 21-day personal branding challenge that actually has been so successful that people are asking, can you please continue this month in and month out? Because I just finished my 21-day personal branding challenge. I started this in January, and
Hmm.
now I'm continuing it. It's actually happening right now. So every month I'm going to have this challenge because I see a demand for it. And it's 21 days we are together, and I am mentoring you, and we get together in sessions. It's either one-on-one or with other people. We can do it in a group setting via Zoom, and I will basically break it down to you exactly how to position yourself as an authority and what messaging you have to use. Because the messaging, how to create your personal brand, can either make you or break you, right? I know exactly what is trending, what kind of buzzwords we need to use in order to propel you forward. So for those listening, to definitely get that personal brand guide and journal on Amazon. It is going to be a change maker. It's going to change the way you look at things.
Cool. Nice. Very interesting. I might look into it also.
You should.
When I was preparing for this call, I think I've seen on your sample videos um, that you also mentioned you need to Google yourself. I did Google myself, and I think it's a quite sad result, in my opinion.
Sad?
It's
Yeah.
LinkedIn, Insta, a couple websites here and there. So probably it's not how it should be, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Did you Google me?
No.
That's touche. You should
I've
always
seen in the
Google
video
everyone.
though, when you Google yourself on that video.
Yeah.
So
You should always Google everyone before you go on the podcast with them. I would highly recommend that next time. But so when you do Google me next time, when we get off this call and you find out more about me, you'll see that there's a Google Knowledge panel with all my pictures.
oh
And
yes.
that only happens when you have over 20 publications and articles that you can submit to Google and Google verifies you. And then you'll see like quick facts about me, the year I was born, the books that I've written, my social media pages. So all of that is it builds a high authority, a really high like professional profile for you. Only celebrities can have that, and like top speakers, authors. And so once you get into that category, and you'll see I'm an entrepreneur because I'm in multiple businesses, but my main
Hmm,
thing
hmm.
obviously is my PR agency. But I wanted to be classified, and actually Google classified me as an entrepreneur. And so basically my knowledge, is not only in PR. I know how to start a business. I started also a nonprofit last year. And so this nonprofit is, helping mentees, and it's bridging the gap between mentors and mentees. And I'm giving educational components because I'm such a huge advocate of mentorship. I think that you need to mentor the next generation of aspiring entrepreneurs. So Googling yourself is so crucial because you see that when you Google yourself, you know what is trending, who's talking about you, and that's how you're going to get booked for different things like seminars, speaking opportunities. All stems from how strong your profile is.
Well, of course, you need to approach them first, and they will verify who you are, and then they will see all
But you
those.
do that through a professional. You do it through someone
Hmm.
who has done. So you do it through a PR agency that can verify you because we need to write the articles about you, right?
Yes,
We need
yes,
to,
yes.
meaning that we submit your article information to a journalist, and then we have this connection with a journalist where we go back and forth, and then we submit that after they have published your article, and then we submit that to Google.
And getting back to what you mentioned before, it's a bad idea to just buy those articles. I assume that probably those won't work like that.
They can disappear.
Hmm.
They'll be archived. You won't find them anywhere, and so you
Hmm.
rather just it's an investment, right? So if you do it the right way and the traditional way of PR, where you have to pitch yourself, and because it's important when you have a publicist who already has this foundation, and I have so many journalists in my arsenal and other publicists, right? So we work together. And when we work together, I say, look, I have an amazing entrepreneur overseas, for example. Can you get him into this publication? I think his angle, his story will work for this type of what you're looking for, because they tell us what they're looking for. Or sometimes I pitch them like, hey, I think this is what you should be writing about in terms of this the month. There's a major thing. The month plays a role. For example, like Women's History Month is coming up, so I will position women differently in different publications, right? So Forbes magazine is asking, who do you think, like journalists, who can you who can you propose, who is really a great
Hmm.
value to write about in Forbes for Women's History Month? So we will give them the list of clients we work with that we can mention.
Interesting, interesting. So, yeah, it sounds easier, and then when you learn more about it, it sounds like really impressive and like complex. But how about people who are hesitant, and it's scary to be seen that much. It's like not everybody is great public speaker, even though they can build a company. They might do one-on-one sales call, but we're talking about like Forbes, for example, like huge exposure, right? Hundreds of thousands of views, like probably like hundreds or thousands of comments coming in. So how about those people? How do you make them not fear that?
Well, first of all, if you're going into business and you're working for yourself, I mean, you should already know you have to go big, right? Or go home.
Yeah,
So if you're not going big, then you're really not an entrepreneur, because an entrepreneur has to go big. You're betting on yourself. And so if you have this wall that you are afraid to speak, or you can't get through that hurdle, then you obviously need a publicist who's going to media train you. We have like hosts and journalists will work from different TV stations. I'm going to actually have a media training with my client later on after our call, where we're going to media train him exactly how you should speak on TV in sound bites, how to get your message across. So he was afraid as well to speak, and he thought he knew what he's doing. And when I said, "Look, speak to me, like just make pretend we're having a mock interview. Let me see how you speak." And I'm like, "Look, you just failed, because first of all, you need to know how to speak in sound bites on TV. You can't go on and on and on about your story, because that in itself is not exciting to the audience. You need to grab their attention quickly, make a statement, and then have a call to action, because they need to be intrigued to learn about you. And that's what we teach, right? We teach you how to be very proactive with your messaging, because every messaging has to have a call to action. What is the purpose of me and you sitting here, right? Obviously, I want more people to learn about me. Obviously, I want them to sign up to my personal branding challenge. Obviously, I want them to go and Amazon and get my services, because that is the low hanging fruit for them to understand what I can deliver on a bigger scale. Get my challenge. That's a low hanging fruit. But guess what? You're gonna get much more if you sign up with me, and get a 12-month service or 6-month service, whatever case might be, and so that I can service you and find a way to get you have that media exposure.
correct. Makes sense. Makes sense. What are the common misconceptions? So you probably have a lot of clients. I'm pretty sure that there's from time to time some weird, things happening, like misunderstandings. People are coming in probably not really knowing what's gonna happen. Was there anything like? Was there any like a fun story, something like that?
A fun story. Well, I'll tell you this much. When they come in and they start working with me, first of all, as much as I explain to them what I do, they still think I'm going to send them clients through the door, whether it be a medical facility, like I work with doctors, attorneys. They think, not all, that people will start calling them more, knocking on their door more, which can be as a result of PR, but that is marketing. Marketing will
Hmm.
get you people through the door, because you can't get people through the door if they don't trust you. So that's the misconception they have about PR. They think that people will start knocking on their door, which can be done, but not an influx what they're thinking. It's all about, because look, statistically proven, 82% of people will be Googled before they get on a call with you, before they sign a contract, or before they even come into your store or to your office, right? Before they step foot into your office, they will Google you and say, "Is it even worth it for me? Does that person founder have credibility? Does his firm have credibility?" And so you'll be Googled. So 82% of people, statistically proven, have done this. So can you imagine?
Hmm.
And do it. That's a huge percentage. 82% of people will Google you, which means that they want to know who's talking about you. They want to know your reviews. How credible are you? Where have you been featured? What can you do for them? And have you taken cases, that can help them? So if you Google me, obviously, you'll see how people are speaking about me. And not only do I have testimonials, I have publications to back me up. I have
Hmm.
TV segments to back me up, because as a thought leader, people want me to come and talk about my story, because I have built that credibility. Another misconception is like, "Oh, it's so expensive, I can't afford it." Of course you can afford it. I mean, it's tailored to you. And if you know that you have if you know you want to get your business to the next level, and you're very serious about this, of course you can afford it. You'll find a way to afford it, right? It's an investment.
That's a good thought. I like it. So, in other words, more like, let's say, technical in marketing. So, in marketing, we build a funnel. So, what you mentioned, some clients, mixing PR and marketing, because marketing is a funnel. So getting people to land somewhere to see it, then the next stage is, let's say, add the product into the cart, and the next stage is add credit card details.
I
Next
hate that.
stage is
I so
click the
hate that.
button. But it's like, let's say you have like a 20%, 10%, and the drop off goes further. But with the PR, you basically increase all those stats up. It's a like a additional tool on top of it to improve overall
Yeah.
funnels and all the marketing effects.
100%, because if you see that there's social proof as seen on, did you see those words
Hmm.
before, as seen
Yeah,
on?
yeah.
Right. If I see someone is trying to sell me and they've been featured, say, New York Times, Forbes, and it's, look, it's possible for you to get into those. It's not impossible. I've done it from people who have never been heard about before. But if I see that you've been featured there and I Google you still, I see that you have an as seen on featured, but then I still Google you, I say, wow, they invested in themselves. They actually been featured in all of this, right?
Hmm.
They're been talked about. That means they're doing something right. They're trustworthy. I want to sign up with them. I want to see. Like I had this company the other day I was talking about, and I was talking with them, and they wanted to close me on a deal. Basically, it was closers. They wanted to send more closers because I'm like, look, I have 12 countries I'm working with. I need closers internationally where they can close these deals.
Hmm.
And so when they were pitching me for an hour, I was with them on a call. And then I said, look, I've been with you for an hour, and I have to say, your reviews are crap. I'm sorry for my, but they're not good. So when I'm like, first of all, you've never been featured on any publication. You're telling me you work with Tony Robbins and you help Tony Robbins. You know who Tony Robbins is, right? They're pitching me, selling they work with Tony Robbins. They're selling for Tony Robbins. When I see they've never been featured in a publication, they have really bad reviews. I say, look, I gave you the benefit of the doubt because you were referred to me by someone. But because even if you were referred to me and I see like the reviews are not good,
Hmm.
and you've never been featured in a publication, as a publicist, you work with such grandiose people, you should be featured in a publication. And so I said, look, all due respect though, I can't work with you.
Interesting. So yeah, it makes sense. Makes sense. Um, all right. So let's talk about 21-day personal branding challenge again.
Mhm.
So that sounds also interesting. So, uh, what inspired to create it? Like, because you're already busy, you have so many things to be doing it, and it's like additional one. So, how about it?
You need to help people understand what PR is. This is about helping people like you, for example, someone who doesn't want to invest or commit right away to 12 months. They understand what I'm about. So this is my way of marketing who I am and showcasing you. Look, you can get 21 days with me for $2,500, and you will understand exactly what I can do for you and how I can position you. And if you think that I did not do a good job, then obviously you'll get your money back. There's a money back guarantee.
Hmm.
But I know, first of all, no one ever did a refund, ever in all my years, never. I know what I do is I over deliver to my clients. I want them to see my personality. I want them to see who I am. I want them to see my workers, like who I work with, right? I invite them. I showcase them who my team is. And so they understand that, look, if I work with her for $2,500 for 21 days, I know that she can do so much more for me in that 1 month, and she'll get me featured in so many publications and get me where I need to go, right? So that is what I do. I give them a low hanging fruit to understand the possibilities of working with me.
Interesting. So 2.5 grand means you can get published already on some serious journals and media.
Say again?
So 25K means you can already get published somewhere. Not only like preparations and like understanding, but you start getting results even if it's like 21 day. Right,
It's
challenge.
2,500, 2,500, not 25,000.
20, oh yeah, right, 2.5.
2,500, right? $2,500, right? Is for 21 days. We get together for like 3 to 4 times. We come on a call, and like I literally dissect your brand for you. I help jumpstart your brand. Now you won't be featured in a publication. That is
Hmm.
when you actually want to commit and work with me, right, on a long-term basis. But this is going to help position you, your messaging, exactly how you should word yourself, how you should speak about yourself on TV, on public, how you should present yourself on video, because video is huge, right? 89% of brands align with founders with video content. So video content is huge. Like, how do you know what to say in front of on TV, in front of the camera, right? Like, or in front of your audience on social media?
Hmm.
Like, how do you
Hmm.
know what to say, right? How do you position yourself as an authority? So that is where I come in, and I help hone in on that.
Right, so we help to create the story, to shape it properly, and how to
Right.
communicate it. Because,
Exactly. And that
uh,
costs thousands upon thousands of dollars, because I've done it. And what I'm giving for $2,500, it's a no-brainer. It really is no-brainer. And that's why I'm so busy with it. And I see it's helping so many people understand the essence of PR.
interesting. Right, you can even use it for the whole year. You like get it once. If it works, you can keep using it, or you can sign up and commit and go further. Right. Cool. Nice. 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 All right. So I've seen that you've been writing, not writing, but making the audiobook about Be Epic, right?
Right. It's not out yet. It's still in the process.
Yeah, so how much left?
It's still in the process. I would say by the hopefully by, because I also have my show coming out. So the Liana Zavo show, which where I'm going to be interviewing business thought leaders, and hopefully I'll be interviewing you as well. But that is coming out, and so my audiobook is probably going to be sometime third quarter of the year.
Okay, well, it's not easy to make the book, so
Yeah, I know. It's actually it's taking much longer than, because I have a voice coach that I hired to help me speak properly. Because when you're talking about your book in audio, right, you may have to make sure that your voice needs to stand on point. There's just so much tonality matters, and just there's so much that comes with it. You can't just pick up a book and start reading it.
right. I always wondered how does that happen? Do authors hire voice actors or they do it themselves? It was always mysterious. So interesting. So you will be that voice actor for your own book.
Yes.
Cool, interesting. All right. So you speak with a lot of like leaders, entrepreneurs across the world, across in various industries, right? What are the most memorable or let's say impactful experiences in your career for yourself?
The most impactful experiences when speaking to these founders.
Yeah, like I meant like you talk to really a lot of people like
Yes.
who've done a lot of great big things.
Yes.
So what was it, for you personally most impactful for
I have to
yourself?
say, I'm going to bring into perspective, because I'm a female advocate, and I know that when I was just starting my journey, it was so hard for me to break into this industry as a woman as well. And so I would say that working with right now with a woman who owns her nonprofit, it's Empower Women That Rock. That's such an impact, because I love working with a woman who is impacting other women. And that in itself for me is amazing, right? So I say that her story is so inspirational, and working with her has really propelled me forward. And she's an amazing person to work with. Her name is Eva Kalivas, and she's the founder of Empower Women That Rock, and she really is making a huge impact. And I'm so happy and proud to be her publicist. Also, I work with so many attorneys and doctors who have stories that are just inspirational, right? Or I have a client that came to me that had nothing to her name. And when I mentor her, she's like, look, I only have a story. If you can help me propel my story, then I will give you everything you need, but just help me in the beginning stages. And I did help her, and she ended up to be my client. She has grieved so much over the years, but as we started working together, her story is just so inspirational, so beautiful. So those stories, make an impact.
Right, interesting. You mentioned female advocate. What is it?
A female advocate is someone who wants other women to thrive, who positions other women in a spotlight, in a highlight. So I host events every couple of months at my club. I'm a member at a club in New York City, and the next one coming up is March 12th. So if you're in New York City and you're listening to this podcast, March 12th is my event. It's Women's History Month. And so my goal with women is to give them a spotlight and a highlight for their expertise, give them a voice, and help them tell their story so it can impact others. So for me, it's important to elevate women, and that's what I'm about.
Okay. Uh, so even these times, it is more challenging for women, as I understand. So there is this imbalance still.
It's there's always going to be something, right? Women are only getting like 2-3% of funding opportunities. That shows in itself that we're not really there up the ladder the way we're supposed to. Women, I would say, because we have so much to take care of family wise, and we're trying to find a balance, and there's really never going to be a balance. So it's, yeah, I think that women still absolutely need that push. We need to push
Mhm.
each other.
Got it. Got it. Is there a difference? For example, you work with Dubai, for example. So it's it's more male dominated area. So how how are you doing there? Like, and can you compare it to states, for example? What's the situation in both?
Interesting. So Dubai has been a very interesting endeavor. They're very open-minded over there. I would say not the Emiratis themselves, but people who live there. So I'm not talking about Emiratis. I'm talking about those who do business there,
Hmm.
and they are more open-minded because it's like New York, right? It's very open-minded, even though you would think at times it wouldn't. But working with me as a woman, I've never dealt with Emiratis themselves. I've always dealt with people who immigrated or
Hmm.
came to Dubai from other countries, and now they want my help to get them into the American market. So I would say it's the same thing like working in New York, right? I think that they're open minded, and it's such a pleasure to work with Dubai. It's a beautiful place. They're very progressive in many ways. It's like it's very futuristic as well. So I definitely love that relationship that I've built with my clients there.
Interesting. Interesting. So I think I learned a lot, and probably audience also learned really a lot. I was wondering, is there anything we should talk about, or maybe I'm missing something important? So I wanted, to give some time for you to mention if there's anything you'd like to.
Yeah, thank you for that. I would say, I mean, I can always say something, and I can talk a lot. So I'm a big believer in doing it now, and no matter what the situation is, no matter how it might be hard, it's not going to get easier tomorrow, I would say, you know, or a year later. I think that if you want to sign up and get really the opportunity to work with me and understand the meaning behind writing your story out and speaking with confidence and understanding what sound bites are and getting you featured in different publications, you should do it now. At least understand the concept. At least try to understand what's in it for you. I would say that do not procrastinate. And I would say that if you cannot, right, if you cannot do PR with me, start doing it on your own. And the way to do it is this way. Number one thing is buy a domain with your first and last name, lock that in. Okay. You want to have a domain that has your name, because that's your everything, right? That's your trademark. So once you have it, it's just going to make it easier for you to showcase your expertise and start blogging, start writing about what you're great at, right? Maybe that way you're just going to start breaking into your story. If you don't want to do it an expert and save time, do it yourself, and start breaking into your messaging on your own. But I would highly recommend working with a professional who can just get you out there much quicker. The next thing is, I would say, you know, what really matters is believing in yourself, right? It all stems from 80% is mindset. Like, believe in yourself that you can actually do this, right? See yourself actually doing it. For me, it's all about first having the emotions in me, knowing that I've done it already. And then it's just, I manifest it through that. Anything that I do, I have to already envision that I have done it, right? So I kind of do reverse engineer on that. I reverse engineer on a lot of things. And so that's what I think I can attribute my success to, is that I reverse engineer my thoughts. I say that I've already done it. Like, in my mind, I already finished everything. And then I say, okay, it's easy. I got it. I'm going to go and do it. So I think that it's mindset. Work on that mindset. And, if you want to read my book, I think that in itself will help you as well.
Awesome. I will put links in the description, so it will be all there.
Thank you.
All right. So thank you very much. It was really a pleasure. It was really, really interesting and informative conversation.
Thank you.
And
Same
for
here.
those who watching and listening, subscribe, don't forget, and stay tuned and wait for the next episode. Take care. See you.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.